Hello, welcome to Roundglass. This masterclass is part of the Roundglass Learning for Holistic Well-Being initiative. We hope you enjoy activating your mind to shift education towards the goal of enhancing holistic well-being. We imagine a future in which ourselves, our communities, and our planet are thriving together. In this masterclass, we will explore the concepts and importance of nourishing personal and planetary well-being. We are all connected by the food we eat. A fundamental part of increasing well-being is becoming conscious on how we, as part of the living system, are interconnected and interdependent, and how being intentional in our actions has the power to affect our well-being. My name is Luis Alberto Camargo. I am the Nature Learning Experiences Team Lead at Roundglass Learning, and I will be guiding you in this journey. I have been involved in the environmental and education arena for over 25 years, working to reconnect people with nature and the earth. The way we relate and interact with nature is a significant aspect of how we re-establish a prosperous relationship with our world. In my experience, there are four main pillars to building this relation. The first pillar is connecting to nature. The second pillar is sensing and perceiving nature. The third is acting and interacting with nature and living systems regeneratively on our planet. And last is nourishing with intent our body from nature's produce. This masterclass will explore the fourth of these pillars, how we as humans relate with the food that nourishes us every day, and how this simple action can be fundamental to reconnecting us to nature and increasing our holistic well-being. By the end of this masterclass, you will have the concepts and tools to start incorporating home and school strategies to reconnect with nature and living systems through the food we consume every day. Coming into right relation with the planet is directly related to our approach to food and nutrition. Food is one of the most important connecting elements in human daily life between personal, social, and planetary well-being. Let's start by closing your eyes and allowing yourself to travel back to the last time you had the privilege of eating honey. Remember the flavor as the honey touched your tongue, the sweetness, the aromatic notes. Remember the texture, viscous and warm, covering your mouth. Remember the feeling of sweet joy felt throughout your body and your mind. Hold that moment for a second and rejoice. Now, let's travel into the natural honey's journey. Do you know how it all began? Let's try to go to the beginning. In a warm, sunny day, somewhere in this beautiful planet, possibly in a valley covered by trees and flowers, down in the ground, full of minerals, water, gases, organic matter, and countless organisms that are busy decaying remains of once living things, magic was happening. The soil was being created. Within that rich soil, full of thousands, even millions of organisms, rain fell and happened to touch a seed. As the seed sprouted, it reached the surface to encounter the powerful energy of the sun, from which it took strength to grow and use the nutrients in the soil to nourish itself. This rich and healthy soil allowed for the plant to grow healthy and full of nutrients. As it matured, it transformed the soil and sun into a strong body that was able to bring a colorful flower into existence. Within this flower, the elixir of nectar emerges, sugars and carbohydrates, full of stored solar energy to offer insects and birds alike. This nectar is special and individual. full of personality and the special flavors identifying this small plant, bush, or tree, and the soil it grew on. Insects and other pollinators searching for the exquisite flowers of the nectar fly around and receive this offering, giving back to the plants by taking pollen and helping them reproduce. Around 3/4 of the flowering plants reproduce thanks to pollinators, and over 35% of our food depends on their laborious activity. Bees, one of the most important insects enabling food to come to our tables, fly with their small wings around 3 to 4 kilometers and up to 9 to find the flower full of sweet nectar. Each bee picks up a fragment of a drop of nectar to bring back to its hive and passes it from bee to bee, transforming it in the process until it is ready to keep. After it's deposited in the storage facility or honeycomb, many bees fan the liquid, accelerating the evaporation of water until it becomes dense and silky honey. Finally, to conserve it, other bees use wax they produce to seal the container and protect it for safekeeping as a future food source. Humans, who many times care for the bees and the abundance of nectar flowers for them to feed, take part of the honeycomb and extract the honey by draining, filtering, and bottling it. Part of the honey is left for the bees and part continues its path towards our table. The bottle travels by one of many different means, 1 to thousands of kilometers into a farmer's market or similar. We then purchase and transport this jar of honey into our house and kitchen to be able to be served and enjoyed. As you taste a drop of sweet honey, you suddenly realize the number of natural elements that combined and transformed, and the many organisms, bees, and people that had a part in making it possible that this drop reached your mouth with its succulent flavor. Food production and consumption are one of the most important processes that bind humans and nature in creating havoc or generating harmony and health for living systems as a whole. Additionally, besides air, food is the mechanism of most intimate and constant interrelation between us as humans and all of nature. When we think of environmental threats, we tend to imagine smokestacks and cars, not necessarily our dinner plate. Of the 9 planetary boundaries or planetary vital signs, 5 are directly affected by our food system, and of which 4 are already in critical states, threatening the collapse of life-supporting systems on the planet. Healthy land and healthy soils are the basis for healthy ecosystems, crops, and life on the planet. Unfortunately, it is estimated that our current way of producing food and transforming land has degraded almost 75% of the land on the planet, and approximately 35% of the agricultural soil on the planet is currently severely degraded. The nutrient cycles that allow life to thrive have been derailed, with agriculture leading the board. As we degrade soil, we substitute nutrients artificially to support large-scale industrial agriculture with the use of fertilizers based on nitrogen and phosphorus. The production and use of fertilizers damage ecosystems during their extraction and end up leaching into water flows, overloading rivers and oceans, and evaporating into the atmosphere, adding unbalanced concentrations, impacting the planetary system. Water and air are additionally polluted by improper agricultural techniques, the use of fossil fuels, improper food waste disposal, and land use transformation. Over 40% of the planet's terrestrial surface is covered by croplands and pastures. To maintain livestock and agricultural production at the rates and format we are using, land is increasingly being transformed from forests and mature ecosystems to grasslands and large-scale monoculture sites. The change in land use releases carbon to the atmosphere, degrades soils, and significantly impacts biodiversity and ecosystem cohesion. The transformation of ecosystems for food production, the use of a very reduced subset of seeds and foods, the incorporation of genetically modified seeds, and the structure of large monoculture systems are heavily impacting biodiversity. It is estimated that 80% of the critical status of biosphere integrity is associated with food production, as we lose insects, soil organisms, birds, and seed diversity, among others. We lose biosphere integrity and the resilience of the planet, its capacity to adapt and recover from change to sustain and allow life to thrive. Finally, food production and waste account for around 30% of all greenhouse gases, contributing to climate change, becoming the second contributor after fossil fuels. Food systems can heavily impact the planet. It can also impact our health. Longer the time and more processing steps from when food is harvested to when we eat it usually means a deterioration of the nutrient value, and in highly processed foods, the modification and addition of sugars, excess sodium, and unhealthful fats, which are all associated with many of the chronic illnesses in our society, such as heart disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and certain types of cancer. According to the World Health Organization, over 50% of adults in the world are overweight or obese, and children's numbers increasing rapidly. Over 25% of the world's children are currently overweight or obese. Even though there is malnutrition in many countries, there is overnutrition in others. Overweight and obesity are linked to more deaths worldwide than underweight. Inequitable access to food is a product not only of a flawed economic system, but also of a global food system that focuses more on profit than food security and sovereignty. As you can see, it is all connected to the way we eat. The planet can produce and sustain all life currently living as long as we adjust our lifestyles and especially shift the way we relate to food from the soil up. In doing this, we need to heal and restore planetary health and well-being. Holistic well-being requires us to walk towards the well-being of the planet and the capacity of all life to thrive together, to strive for the well-being of society and its capacity to live peacefully and in right relation, and to ensure the well-being of each individual and in relations to itself, others, and nature. Food is directly connected to all levels of well-being. Changing such a large system may sound complex, but you have more power than you can imagine. It all starts by cooking and eating intentionally and mindfully. Your choices reflect the whole chain of processes behind them. Think about it. Eating mindfully requires us to enjoy all aspects of the moment we eat, to be conscious and grateful for this magical element entering your body. Connect with nature and have gratitude for all beings that allowed this food to exist. It is about having a mindful attitude and allowing for a deep connection with the food we eat and the life force it brings with it. Cooking in heart and right relation is also important. In many ancestral cultures of the world, the cook has the responsibility of adding to the meal love and sacred energy, ensuring that this special ingredient is always present. Becoming an intentional eater requires more thought and planning. Learning where your food comes from and starting to choose intentionally, keeping soil and the planet, people, and your well-being in mind as you choose. This shift will lead to healthier food for you and your loved ones, deeper enjoyment, and a path towards deepening your connection with nature and life, realizing your true interbeing nature. It will shift you to start growing food and purchasing more local foods from small agroecological farmers, increasing distributed income and local food security, strengthening the local and regional sense of community. As more food is produced locally and in a regenerative or agroecological way, the soil will start to regenerate, biodiversity will be increased and supported, and will start to allow sustainable food systems to emerge. Shifting towards a high percentage plant-based local diet will also help protect water and reduce our food's carbon footprint. Through our choices, this can be done in our homes, schools, businesses, and in our community. As educators and parents, we can lead this shift and help create a food culture that is intentional and mindful. Considering food is an everyday activity, it should be used by parents and teachers as an opportunity to further reconnect children to nature and our interdependent essence. Schools have a critical role in this process at two levels: creating learning experiences and generating sustainable food services. The first and easiest to include in schools is creating learning experiences for children to start understanding food systems and incorporating intentional and mindful eating. In this process, articulating different areas of knowledge, using food as an anchor for inquiry and exploration is a powerful way of bringing systems thinking and integrating history, science, art, math, life skills, and language, among others, into a true learning journey. Children and youth of all ages can build upon this thread and apply discoveries every day, making learning significant. The second step requires schools as institutions to embrace the transition towards sustainability, revising and including actions to transform school kitchens into sustainable and intentional food centers, starting from revising procurement and supply chains to include agroecological and local produce, as well as school food gardens, creating healthy menus that can be traced back to soil, and reducing waste and managing it sustainably. The two strategies can easily connect and reinforce each other if done intentionally. As a regional school food system changes, local sustainable food production can be supported and stimulated, and the transition to a healthier future accelerated. Considering there are potential costs involved in implementing these changes, start by incorporating mindful eating, incorporate curriculum and learning experiences. Start bringing a herb and vegetable garden into your school classroom or yard. Build relations with local community food growers as they can support learning experiences and start providing food for the schools. In your personal lives and at home, conversations around food intentionality and mindfulness will allow for deep reflections and taking charge in the path towards holistic well-being. Including children in the process of cultivation, selection, purchase, cooking, and mindful eating allows them to better understand our connection to the soil and nature. Start planting and buy local from small agroecological and regenerative farmers. Allow yourself to discover the magic behind nature's offerings and its capacity to nourish our body and our soul. Wrapping it up, we have seen how eating as a daily activity is a fundamental process that can impact positively or negatively our individual and planetary health and well-being, how soil health is fundamental to support life, and how food systems can become more sustainable as we shift the way we eat. Eating intentionally and mindfully is an important part of assuming our personal and planetary responsibility to create the conditions for all life to thrive together. Remember honey. Start today, close your eyes, and deeply enjoy your next meal. Trace back to soil those flavors, and start choosing intentionally the foods you bring to the table. As we come in right relation with nature, nature will bring more magic and flavor into our life experience.